The sound cracked through the busy parking lot like thunder. Blessing Jude's face snapped to the side. A strange, rough hand had just slapped Nigeria's most famous single mom and billionaire soul, right in front of cameras. The whole place froze. The reporters who had been taking pictures dropped their cameras. The security guards didn't move. Even her driver, who was about to open the car door, stood like a statue. Nobody ever touched Blessing Jude. Nobody. She was the kind of woman people feared, respected, or admired from afar. But now, in broad daylight, she had just been slapped by a man who looked like he didn't even belong there. Blessing blinked fast. Her cheek burned. Her heels wobbled slightly as she struggled to stay on her feet. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Standing in front of her was a tall, dark man in dirty clothes. His shirt was torn at the shoulders. His face was tired and rough. His hair was uncombed. His hands were shaking slightly, but his eyes were locked on something behind her. The crowd whispered quickly, "Who is that?" "A madman. He slapped Madam Blessing. He's finished today." But they didn't know what was really happening. Even Blessing didn't. Just seconds before that slap, a man in a black jacket had been walking straight toward her from behind. His hand was inside his jacket, his steps quiet and firm. What nobody noticed was a gun in his hand. He had already aimed. One more second, and he would have pulled the trigger. But Simon noticed. Simon was the homeless man everyone ignored every day. He usually sat under the big tree near the gate of the parking lot. People passed him like he was invisible. But today, his eyes caught something deadly. When he saw the man raise a gun, Simon didn't think. He ran. And the only way to save her life fast was to make her move. Pa! The slap landed just before the gunman pulled the trigger. Blessing's head snapped to the side, her body jerking just enough to dodge the bullet. The gun fired, bang, and the bullet slammed into the side mirror of her SUV. People screamed and ducked. Simon didn't wait. He grabbed Blessing by the arm and dragged her down behind the car. She tried to pull away, panicking. "Let me go." "Are you mad?" "Shut up and stay down," Simon hissed, his eyes burning. "Someone's trying to kill you." Blessing froze. She peeped from behind the car and saw the gunman moving fast, trying to get a clear shot. The crowd scattered. Some ran. Some just screamed and hid. Her own security was too shocked to react. Simon picked up a loose piece of metal from the ground. It wasn't much, but it was something. "You see him," he said quickly, pointing. "He's not here to scare you. He's here to end you." The weight of those words hit Blessing hard. She wasn't just a woman anymore. She was a target. "On my count," Simon whispered, "we run. Don't look back." He stood slowly. The gunman spotted him and raised the weapon again. Simon threw the piece of metal with all his strength. It hit the man's wrist, making him flinch. "Run!" Simon shouted. Blessing sprinted in her heels, breath shaking, heart pounding. Reporters dove for cover as gunshots echoed through the parking lot. Simon rushed the gunman, knocking him off balance long enough for Blessing to escape through the gate. By the time she turned back, Simon and the gunman were struggling in the middle of the lot. Security was finally reacting, but everything felt like a blur. And that was how it began. A slap from a homeless man, a missed bullet, and a billionaire woman's life changed forever. The parking lot was in chaos. People were running in every direction. The air smelled like hot metal and burnt rubber from a bullet that had smashed into the car. Blessing stumbled to the side of the gate, her heart beating faster than it ever had in her life. She was shaking all over. Her expensive handbag had fallen somewhere behind her, but she didn't care. For the first time in years, Nigeria's most powerful young woman felt completely helpless. Reporters who had been there to cover her charity launch were now hiding behind cars, some still filming with trembling hands. Sirens wailed in the distance. Security finally came alive, but they were late. In the middle of it all, Simon was still fighting the gunman. The man aimed again, but Simon moved fast, grabbing his arm. The gun went off, bang, and shattered the windshield of another car. People screamed louder. 2 security men rushed in and tackled the gunman to the ground. The weapon slid across the pavement. One of them kicked it away while the other pinned the attacker down. Simon stood there, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his dirty face. His torn shirt was soaked around the collar, but his eyes were steady. He had saved her. Blessing stared at him from where she stood near the gate. Their eyes met for the first time. For a brief moment, everything went silent. She wasn't looking at a homeless man anymore. She was looking at the stranger who had just risked his life to save hers. Then the police sirens grew louder. Black SUVs arrived. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, shouting commands. They pushed through the crowd and surrounded the scene. "Everybody down," one officer yelled. 2 policemen grabbed Simon roughly, not even asking questions. "Wait!" Blessing shouted, her voice breaking. "He's not the shooter. He saved me." But the officers didn't listen right away. To them, he was just another suspicious man, dirty barefoot, standing too close to a gun crime scene. "Hands up," one officer barked. Simon didn't fight. He raised his hands slowly, confused but calm. They twisted his arms behind his back and slapped handcuffs on him. The metal clicked loudly. The reporters, sensing a new story, turned their cameras on him. Flashes went off like fireworks. The headline was already writing itself in their minds. "Homeless man slaps billionaire woman in broad daylight." Nobody knew yet that the slap had saved her life. Blessing ran toward the officers, her security trying to hold her back. "Let him go," she shouted. "He saved me. That man over there had the gun, not him." But the scene was too noisy. Too many voices. Too much confusion. Simon was pushed into the back of a police truck like a criminal. The real gunman was being carried into another vehicle, already handcuffed. Blessing felt her throat tighten. Her cheek still stung from the slap, but something inside her knew she couldn't just let him disappear. As the police convoy drove away with Simon inside, she stood in the middle of the parking lot surrounded by flashing cameras, broken glass, and armed men. Her assistant whispered, "Madam, are you all right?" But Blessing didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the truck disappearing down the street. The man who had saved her life was being taken away like a suspect. And right there, Blessing Jude made a quiet promise to herself. She was going to find him. She was going to clear his name. And she was going to repay that slap one way or another. The sun was still high in the sky when Blessing Jude's convoy pulled up in front of the police station. The big gates opened slowly, and her black SUV rolled inside. Reporters had already gathered at the entrance, shouting her name, flashing cameras. They all wanted to know one thing. Why did a homeless man slap a billionaire woman in broad daylight? Blessing didn't answer anyone. She stepped out of the car, her hair still perfectly styled, but her face was different now. No more shock, no more confusion, only determination. 2 of her personal security guards walked beside her. As she entered the building, officers and civilians stared. Everyone in Nigeria knew her face. Some whispered, some just stared in surprise. Inside, the air smelled like sweat and dust. A noisy ceiling fan spun slowly above the counter. A tired-looking officer lifted his head. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said, sitting up quickly when he recognized her. Madam Blessing, we didn't know you were coming." "I'm here to see the man you arrested earlier," she said firmly. "The one from the parking lot." The officer scratched his head nervously. You mean the homeless man? Blessing's eyes hardened. The man who saved my life, she corrected him. The officer's smile faded. Yes, Ma. He's in the holding cell. But I want to see him. Now. The weight of her voice left no space for argument. Within minutes, another officer led her down a short, narrow hallway. The walls were old and cracked. Blessing's heels echoed sharply with every step. When they reached the cell, she saw him. Simon sat on the floor, his back against the wall, his hands resting on his knees. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a quiet fire. His shirt was even dirtier now. He had no shoes. A single thin mattress lay in the corner, untouched. He looked up slowly when he heard the footsteps. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Blessing didn't see a madman anymore. She saw a man who had risked his life without even knowing her. The officer cleared his throat. "You have 5 minutes, Ma." Then he stepped aside. Blessing walked closer to the bars. Simon didn't stand. He just stared at her like he didn't care who she was. She took a slow breath. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. He tilted his head. "Do what?" "Slap me." He chuckled once, a dry, quiet sound. "If I didn't, you'd have a bullet in your head right now." Blessing's chest tightened at the thought. "You saved me," she said. Simon shrugged. "I just did what anybody should have done." She shook her head slowly. Not everybody would risk their life for a stranger. Silence hung between them. She took another step closer to the cell. "They shouldn't have arrested you." Simon smirked. "It's all right. A man like me is always guilty first." His words cut deep. Blessing had never thought about what it meant to live like him. Invisible, unwanted, always judged. "I'll get you out," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because you don't belong in there. Not after what you did for me." For the first time, Simon's face softened a little. "Madam, people like me don't just walk out of police stations, even if I save the president." She looked him straight in the eyes. "Well, people like me don't take no for an answer." Her voice was steady, powerful, the same voice that had built an empire. Simon looked at her for a long second, not as a billionaire, not as a stranger, but as a woman who meant every word she said. The officer returned. "Time up, Ma." Blessing turned slowly to him. "He's leaving here today," she said. "Start the paperwork. I'm calling your boss." And just like that, everything began to shift. The woman who once didn't even notice the man by the gate was now fighting to free him.